in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
Good evening. Welcome to the Bahamas Tonight. I'm Chris Saunders. Thank you so much for joining us. After a number of delays, executives of the Bahamas Nurses Union, officials from the Ministry of Health, the Department of Public Health, and the Ministry of Public Service all signed off on 2 new industrial agreements today. Fern Carey was there for the signing.
The 2 new 5-year industrial agreements cover 2010 to 2015 and 2015 to 2020. The contracts will cost the government $4,350,050 and will impact some 200 Department of Public Health nurses. The new contracts come after a number of delays and protests staged by the nurses. Health Minister Dr. Perry Gomez says the 2010-2015 industrial agreement mirrors the previous 2005-2010 contract with the exception of a uniform allowance increase of $50 per month. It takes effect from July 1st of 2012.
You would recall that our nurses received lump sum payments of $300 in December 2014 for the period July 2014 to December 2014. Further, as of January 2015, they were receiving the $50 increase on their monthly salary. The only outstanding commitment for the 2010 to 2015 period is the retroactive balance owed for uniform allowance for the period July 2012 to June 2014, which will be paid as soon as possible.
Dr. Gomez indicated that nurses are the unsung heroes in the country and one of the cornerstones in the implementation of national health insurance come January. President of the Bahamas Nurses Union, Jana Kalfani, thanked the government and all those involved for making the new industrial agreement a reality.
I would also like to thank you all for the patience that you all displayed, the respect that was displayed during the whole process. The Minister of Department of Public Service, I would like to thank him as well for answering my calls when I contact him when we get into little scrapes. And I would especially like to thank my legal team, Mr. Obi Ferguson, for always being there to guide us legally and mentor us through this whole process. And I would be amiss if I don't thank the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Legal counsel for the nurses, union leader Obi Ferguson, says the new contracts are timely.
Thanking the Prime Minister and his cabinet and new Minister and Minister of Labour. I echoed it before and I'm echoing it now again, that the health of a nation is the wealth of a nation. And any government that with being a government ought to first consider its people.
Fern Carey, ZNS Network News.
Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation CEO Edison Sumner tonight is weighing in on the recent drop in unemployment. He talks to Cleopatra Murphy about the statistics that he says should spur action from every sector.
The latest figures from the Department of Statistics shows unemployment now at 14.8%, and Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation CEO Edison Sumner says the 2.8% rise is a cause for concern. He adds that it shows the country has work to do.
The numbers are a bit frightening now because the numbers, we see the rates are increasing. Even though we heard the minister announce that that they've seen the number of unemployment go down since the recession, the fact is there are more people unemployed today than there were 8-9 years ago, and that number continues to climb.
The November labor force survey showed that the workforce increased to 212,195 people. Of that number, 31,375 are unemployed. Nearly 2,000 Bahamian workers were laid off from the stalled $3.5 billion Bahamas resort earlier this year, their numbers contributing to the unemployment rise. Sumner says we must get a clear understanding of where the numbers are coming from and determine a way to get more Bahamians working.
We don't know of any major redundancies announced other than that happened at Bahamas. All right, we don't know of any other layoffs except that which happened at BTC, but that happened prior to the last report that was published.
Youth unemployment also jumped to 30%, up from 25.3% in May. Sumner says a problem is many young people do not have the skills to make it in the job market. He says more focus should be placed on self-employment because as people establish businesses, they also create more jobs.
We need to find out how we can work together, private sector and the government, to arrest this problem and to reverse the trend. And the only way we can get that done is through two things, really, through skills and productivity levels increasing, and also through promoting entrepreneurship.
Sumner says the Chamber is also trying to train Bahamians with the soft skills to better themselves and to promote upward mobility.
The Chamber of Commerce is doing its part in helping to bring training and expertise, technical capacity, etc., to these persons looking to get into business.
He says it will also be vital to develop more industries in the country to develop more opportunities for employment. Cleopatra Murphy, ZNS Network News.
Progressive Liberal Party Chairman Bradley Roberts says as the country looks to 2016, the country's key performance indicators are much better than May 2012. Therefore, the government has good reason for its expressed, informed optimism. He believes that with the proposed opening of Bahamas next year, the challenges on unemployment will greatly diminish. Roberts says government has engaged in much heavy lifting over the past 3 years to put the country's fiscal house in order and to turn around the country's #1 industry. He said the PLP inherited what he called a fiscal mess when coming to office in 2012. He adds that at that time, the employment figure stood at just over 160,000, and by November of that year, the figure had increased to more than 180,000, an increase of 20,000 jobs under the PLP administration. The PLP chairman also notes that tourism has rebounded in a big way with increased airlift due to successful marketing campaigns. He also says in its latest assessment of the local economy, the central bank expressed optimism, projecting that the economy will continue to grow at a very mild pace in 2016.